What is up? Welcome back to another live webinar. Most Mondays, man, we got a special guest talking about some special stuff. And tonight's special guest is none other than my good buddy, Mr. Trey Honeycutt. What is up, Trey?
Howdy, how's it going?
I am great, man. Dude, I'm excited for this webinar. I'm excited. We got a flood of registrations over these last 24 hours for this specific topic. Dude, I'm glad you picked this, by the way, because we have a lot of people that are wanting to do both. They want to sell and they want to
Right,
build, but they don't tend to be the easiest of two to mesh, and do it at
right.
the same time. But you've had a lot of success over the years at both, as a ton of other people at FFL and Integrity have as well. So
Yeah, no doubt. Um, yeah, I'm excited about the topic too. So
cool, man. Yeah, me as well, buddy. Appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you being on too. Trey he's got to jump on a flight tomorrow, and he was gonna go tonight. He changed his flight just so he could be here, and now he's got to leave his house at 3:30 in the morning to take a different flight to wherever he's going, which is freaking cool. Not cool, but cool that he's doing it for us, which is awesome. Trey, out of all the topics you could teach on, and Trey is one of the best at teaching on cold market recruiting. Warm market recruiting. Probably cold too, to be honest, but definitely warm market recruiting. Why this topic? Why tonight?
well, I think the main thing to understand for anybody that's looking to build an agency is the biggest override that you make in this business is on yourself. You can't, what a lot of people think they could do is go treat it like a multi-level marketing company and just recruit a bunch of people. But if nobody makes any sales, nothing happens. And the thing about this business is that's unique. If you do it the wrong way, it'll suck up way too much time and it'll cause you not to produce. So personal production is the number one thing. You can build and fund and do everything you need to do in this business just by consistently going out and writing a certain number of policies every single week. And for me, that's what I always measured. I was always measuring how many appointments do I have. I was always measuring how many leads do I have. I was always measuring how many applications do I come home with. At the end of the day, if I'm doing phone sales, how many applications do I walk away with? That was the measuring stick. I think the thing that confused me a lot in the business early on was I was just trying to figure out what to measure, especially on the sales side. Like people would say, well, what is it? Is it a certain amount of premium each week? Is it a certain amount of appointments? What is it that you're actually looking to measure? And what changed my life, and literally people throw that around all the time, but there was this pivotal moment where I realized if I just work 40 hours a week, if I'll just give this the same effort that I would give a job if they were going to fire me if I didn't show up, it doesn't have to be 80 hours a week. It becomes that because you fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And it's what's hard to do now becomes hard not to do in the future. So at some point, it doesn't feel like you're working all the time because you have the freedom to do it from wherever. So it doesn't feel like you're just pin up 12 hours a day, doing the business. But in the beginning, if you can just focus on, if you're full time in insurance, 40 hours a week, doing one of three things. You're either setting appointments to talk to people about insurance, talking to people about insurance, or teaching people how to set appointments to talk to people about insurance. That's pretty much your work week. And if you could do that, and when I did it, when I discovered this, we did nothing but in-home appointments. So the tendency at that point was like, what about drive time? Well, I didn't count my drive time. That wasn't part of my 40 hours because that would be like commuting to work. Like if you have a job and it's 2 hours away and you got to commute, you still got to put the 40 hours a week in at the job. So when I'm in the car, that's when I was focusing on recruiting. So there's some fundamental things that you got to get good at to be able to do both at the same time. But the first fundamental thing is making sure that you're giving it the proper time for personal production. While you're doing that, my goal to build, this is literally, I'll give you the whole game plan, the whole thing, and I'll tell you everything I did. My goal to build an agency was to take two people from not knowing about my opportunity a day to knowing about my opportunity a day.
Mm.
Now, when I was first introduced to the insurance business, the person that did it, they basically sat me down and gave me an hour spiel on why it was a good idea. And even though I really liked that person, and even though it was a great opportunity that I ultimately said yes to, in the back of my mind, what I was saying is, I don't have time to do what they just did to me. People are going to ask themselves three things. They're going to say, can I do what Trey's doing? Do I have time to do what Trey's doing? And would I mind doing this to people that I know? Because when you look at this, if you break down any leaderboard and any organization that subscribes to anything Cody does, every single one of those leaderboards is going to be somebody knew somebody that knew somebody that did it. There's going to be times in there where somebody's responding to an advertisement. But in order for the growth to come, the thread that holds it all together is warm market relationships. That really is the way that it functions. It's really the way it works. And the longer time goes by and the more you analyze it and you piece it together, you'll realize that. It'll just be story after story of, I got this story. I met this guy at the gym. He became my friend. I recruited him. He ran an ad. He got this other guy. The guy didn't do anything for a year, but he did recruit one person. We became friends with that person. He recruited two of his friends. All of them quit, and the second friend went on to build an agency of doing, 500,000 a month. Like, that's how all the stories work. You can go through any organization in this industry, and that's what you'll find. So the trick to it is 2 people a day from not knowing about your opportunity to knowing about your opportunity, and learning to be the commercial, not the feature film. Because one of the big objections that people give Cody when they start out is they say, I'm just trying to figure out how to sell. Who's going to follow me? How am I going to teach them how to sell? I don't know anything. I don't even know if I can do it. The best thing you can do for your personal production, honest to God, is to go recruit somebody else. Now, I used to liken this to parenting, and I would say, I'd make these analogies about having kids. But then I started thinking about, what am I saying? If your marriage isn't working, go have kids. That'll make it better. No, that's not true. That's not good advice. But it is good advice in this business, because if you're not producing at a high enough level, and maybe it is good advice. I don't know your story. You do you, boo. I don't know. But if you're not producing at a high level and you go recruit somebody else, now there's an extra layer of accountability, and there's someone that you know, and now that person might put on you the positive peer pressure for you to actually do appointments on Saturdays like you should be doing. That's the other thing. If you're new, you got to get this mentality out of your head about balance, like time freedom and family work-life balance and all that stuff. If you don't have any money, you have to be unbalanced to get money. And then what people do is they start saying, well, I don't want to sell my soul. No, listen, you got to work anyway. You might as well make a bigger sacrifice in the beginning so that you don't have to sacrifice for as long. Where a lot of people get this confused is they think the plan that they start with is the way it's going to be for ever and ever. And that's not the truth. There's going to be super speedy, massive action for periods of time with short breaks. Okay. And the trick to this is doing it well enough that when you take longer than a short enough break, people think you're still doing it. I can't believe I just said it in a recording, but that's a skill. You have to learn how to do that. All right. So that's the first thing, taking 2 people a day from not knowing about your opportunity to knowing about your opportunity, be in the commercial, not the feature film. And when people say things like, I have to be the number 1 producer to do it, that's actually untrue. It actually hurts you. If Bob is making $100,000 a month in the business and he goes and recruits his friend, it's harder for him to recruit his friend than it is for you to recruit your friend when you haven't sold anything yet. Because everybody's going to give all these excuses about Bob. Well, Bob's on top of the pyramid. Bob got started first. Bob gets all the good leads. Of course, it was a good time with Bob. He got lucky. The opportunity's over now. They'll say all this stuff. When you're brand new and people go, how are you doing? Say, I'm doing terrible. That's what I'm talking to you about. I think you'd be better. Nobody thinks you're having an ulterior motive if you're not killing it yet. It's actually the opposite of what people think. So it helps you to write more when you go recruit somebody. You have more credibility when you start than you actually believe you do. Because when you start and you try to recruit, it's not about your story. It's about the company. It's about the opportunity. And what you have to get good at is pointing and getting out of the way. Because what people do, especially people that know you, they're going to judge their opinion based on their opinion of you. And they could be really close to you and they like you and they trust you, but they don't respect you. If I go talk to my Aunt Karen, she changed my diaper, she don't respect me, regardless of what she says. She knows the good, bad, and the ugly. So if I make it about me, she's actually less likely to join or less likely to get started. But if I make it about the opportunity and how they can benefit from the opportunity, and I show them some sort of tool that explains the opportunity without me being the one to do it, to do the heavy lifting, but I just get good at promoting that tool, then that's something everybody can do. Let's say it takes me, I mean, how long does it take to have 2 5-minute conversations? 10 minutes. If you're long winded, 15. 15 minutes a day isn't going to stop you from doing anything you need to do to support your family and make sales. And that time in between appointments, when you get no showed, when you're out driving around, go to the next one, when you're waiting because you finished up one early, and those are the times that you make those recruiting calls, and you use that tight schedule as an excuse to not have a lot of time to spend on the phone. So when they ask questions, you can say things like one of the things I do is I have a video that explains our opportunity. So if Cody's my friend and I just got off a phone sale and I'm waiting for my next one and it's in 10 minutes, this is the perfect time to call Cody. So I would call Cody, and Cody's somebody I look up to who's been successful. And the first thing I'd say to Cody is I'd say, Cody, listen, I was nervous to call you about something. I really respect you. I didn't want you to judge me because you've been way more successful in business than I have. But I found an opportunity. I'm really excited about it. And before I dump a bunch of money into it, I'd like to see what you think. If I send you some information, would you look at it and tell me what you think? And he'll
Wow.
say yes. And that's it. And people say, well, what did you say about insurance? What did you say? I didn't say anything because my goal is not to close Cody. It's just to expose Cody to what I'm doing and start a pipeline of people that are in the process of making a decision about it. And if it's like roulette, this is the way you got to look at this business. And it's not this way with leads. With leads and dialing and setting appointments and closing people, like you got to close people. You get one shot. The worst thing that could happen, Cody, is if you get a lead on the phone, it's the very first one you had, and they say, call me tomorrow, and then they buy the biggest policy ever, like you just quit. You should actually just quit the business because
True.
you'll think that everybody does that, and it'll mess you up for like the rest of your life. So selling in this business is like hunting. You get one shot. Okay. Building, recruiting in this business is like farming. You're planting seeds, you're watering it, you're cultivating it, you're pulling weeds here and there, and eventually you get a harvest. So I look at this a lot like roulette, and I don't gamble much. I'm not very good at it. In fact, a lot of people I know that do gamble, especially on sports, they ask me what would I pick, and then they pick the opposite, and that's literally their betting strategy. So I'm not good at gambling, but roulette, for instance, what they'll do is if I put the ball on the wheel and I spin it and I bet on green double zero, if you can even do that. I don't know if you can really bet on that or not. But I'm betting that the ball's going to land on 7. Okay, let's say I'm betting it's going to land on 7. How do I ensure that every single time they spin the wheel that the ball lands on 7? This is one of those riddles like they give you in elementary school. Like the way you do it is you fill the wheel up with balls. That's what recruiting is. You put enough people in the pipeline consistently enough, long enough that the right people fall out of the pipeline and raise their hand and say they want to do it. So that's why the consistent, persistent effort of taking a few people a day from not knowing to knowing, if you do that compounded over time, it becomes a probability that it'll work. So what my strategy was is I was going to go out and write 5, 10, 15 applications a week, every single week, selling insurance. My dial times were the most important times for me to set these appointments. That was phase one, most important red time. That's where I had to spend the most effort and energy. And in between those times, what I would do is I would have short conversations with people, asking them to take a look at what it was that I was doing. Cody was somebody I looked up to. That's how I'd approach it. You probably wouldn't be interested. You're really busy. You've already been really successful. If you think it's stupid, great. If you like what you see, maybe you can introduce me to the right people. There might be opportunity for us to cut you in. Just things like that. You know, um, if you like what you see, I'll introduce you to the right folks. Like I say stuff like that, just uh, habitually. It's how I talk about it.
Yeah.
The next type of person is the person that looks up to you. That's the person that you could just call up and be like, Cody, found a way for us to both get rich. Go look at this. I'll call you 10 minutes. Like you guys all have people like that in your circle, right? Like everybody has that. So you just have to delineate between, is this somebody I look up to There's this somebody that kind of looks up to me. And then the hardest ones are like your peers. So the way you approach your peers is either kind of like the first way, or a real simple approach is like, hey, Cody, I know you're really busy doing what you're doing. I just started a new business. I'm excited about it. I'm looking for a few people that want to make an extra $3,000 to $5,000 a month on Saturdays. They have to be smart. They have to be hardworking. Have to have good sales skills, able to communicate, and not be afraid of commission. You know anybody like that? And then I just tailored that towards something that I think that fits Cody. So of course he's going to say something like, "Well, yeah, me," you know. And regardless of what he says, I don't know. Well, hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'll send you some information about what it is. Just promise me you'll take a look at it. It's a 10-minute video. It'll explain who we are, what we do, how we do it, how we get paid, everything you ever want to know. If you like what you see, I'll introduce you to the right people. But most importantly, if you know anybody, send them my way. Would you do that for me? He'll be like, yes. And that's it. I mean, these are simple. How long did it take to do that? In 2 minutes. So I'm doing that sporadically, systematically throughout the week, every single day. And the goal of that is, let's say I did that 10 times a week and I did that 50 weeks out of the year. That's 500 people a year that I invited to take a look at my opportunity within the sound of my voice. Now, what are the odds out of those 500 people, I can't find 50 who look at your great companies? Everybody has great companies. We all got great compensation and leads, and all these great insurance carriers get paid by the insurance carriers. And, you get paid by this big freaking insurance carrier. The check's not going to bounce. If the check was coming from me, that'd be different. But they look at all this great opportunity. What are the odds that 50 out of those 500 wouldn't raise their hand and say, yeah, that sounds good, I'll give it a try? And if at the end of the year you had 5 people out of that 50 that could go out and do $20,000 a month in premium, if you just got a 10% override on that, that's $10,000 a month passively. And that's just with 5 stars. And people go, is that all you're looking for is 5? No, the masses come and go. There's going to be people that start, that stop. There's going to be people that start, stop, come back. There's going to be people that don't start. There's going to be people that take off, they quit for a little bit. And then there's going to be people that are just consistent the whole time. So I'm just saying, if you had 5 stars at the end of the year, 5 people that were helping 20 families a month, $20,000 in premium, 10% override, that's 10,000 a month. What if you got a 20% override? That's 20,000. Now, people say, well, how does that happen? It happens through consistent, persistent effort. Where most people screw it up is they talk to 10 people and they think those are the 10 people. Here's another major thing that you need to understand. The ones you think will, won't, and the ones you think won't, will. Why is it like that? I don't know why it's like that. It's weird. The people you think are most suited for something, half the time they don't even start. And the ones you think would never do it, they're some of the best to ever do it. I mean, I've seen that happen so many times, it's remarkable. So let's say at the end of that year, you were making $10,000 a month in overrides. This is the way I want you to look at this. How much money would you have to have in the bank to make $10,000 a month, whether you worked or not? Because that's what an override is. You aren't in the house selling for them. You aren't on the phone making the sale for them. I'm not saying you can just kick your feet up and, go on a cruise necessarily, but you're not necessarily involved in those sales with those people by the end of the year, right? Like there's a learning curve and all that, but that's passive income. How much money would you need to have in the bank to make $10,000 a month, whether you did anything or not, after taxes? So if you made 10% interest on your money, you'd need $1.2 million to make $10,000 a month after taxes. $1.2 million after taxes to make $10,000 a month. That's at 10% interest. Nobody can get that. Let's say you get 5% interest. That means you need $2.4 million after taxes to make $10,000 a month. What do you think is easier? Saving up $2.4 million after taxes in the next year, or finding 5 people that can sell $20,000 in premium on the weekends by taking a few people a day from not knowing to knowing? That was I just told you my whole business plan. That's really actually what it was. And what I thought about was like, in the second year, if I could just get those 5 to do what I did. And how do you do that? By preaching the same message, by making it simple, by making it consistent. If I could just get those 5 people to do what I did, now at the end of that year, now there's 30 people helping 20 families a month or writing $20,000 in premium. That's 600,000 in premium. If you got 10% of that, that's 60,000 a month. Now, that's an override. What if that took you 5 years? Would you give up? Like, what if your half as good is what I'm saying? What if you really suck? So this is to just help you understand what consistent effort over time looks like. Because a big misconception is people way overestimate what they can accomplish in a week or two, and they way underestimate what a year or two of consistent effort every day will yield you in this business. This business is the most amazing thing in the world for somebody who can be really consistent at the basic things all the time. It's also the most unforgiving thing in the world if you're not consistent, because chargebacks will eat you alive. If you're the person that starts and stops and starts and stops, it's like the kiss of death. Like, I'd rather you do, and that's what people say. Well, I think I should take 117 people a day from not knowing to knowing. But I don't care about that. Like, you do that one day. It's like if I go to the dentist once a year, but the day before I go to the dentist, I brush my teeth for 365 2-minute intervals. I'm not going to get the same results as if I brush my teeth every single day. Right? It's not the same thing. So what I'm more concerned about is just the consistent effort over time. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the next thing that you need to understand about building at a high level is, when is somebody actually recruited? Like, what's a recruit? Like, too many people look at this like, well, Bob, he got contracted with Mutual of Omaha. I got me one. That's not it. All Bob did was give you permission to recruit him again tomorrow. So you have to have a system of communication where you're consistently, like, my goal when I recruit somebody, and where I've messed it up because I've made mistakes the whole time, but because I understand the mechanics of what I'm talking about, it's really easy to diagnose where the mistake is and go in and fix it. So here's a little story about this. So my son, both my kids play baseball, and they both started out as pitchers. Now they both play catcher for whatever reason. So in town where I live, we have like a bona fide like star, okay? And his name is, in the 1994 College World Series, Oklahoma Sooners, he was the closing pitcher in, the third game, and got like 6 strikeouts in the last 2 innings. So his name is Bucky Buckles, okay, which is a cool freaking name. Well, he happens to be married to this girl that I went to high school with. I didn't go to the same high school as her, but I knew her in high school. So anyway, he does these pitching lessons. Now, this is a professional pitcher. Like, he knows how to pitch a freaking baseball. Now, my son, Emery, my oldest son, when he pitches a baseball, it goes straight. It may not be the fastest thing, but he could throw it over the plate. Like, he's always been super accurate. Like, if you hold your glove there, he'll throw it in there. You don't even have to close your eyes, he'll throw it in the glove. I mean, he's super accurate. It's kind of freaky. My other son, Harper, if he tries to pitch it, it's going to end up, depending on how hard he tries to throw it, between home plate and first base somewhere. And so we were like, I was watching all these videos on YouTube. Like, I got to figure out how I could help Harper become a better pitcher. So I was watching all these YouTube drills and like all these gadgets that you make and all these things that you do to strengthen your rotator cuff. And there was all this stuff. Then we take him to go see Bucky. Bucky puts him in the thing, has him stand on the mound. He goes, throw it to Tom. So he throws it to Tom. He goes, okay, throw it harder. Okay, throw it harder. And when he starts to try to throw it hard, it would go like over there, but like not even close to the catcher. So when that happened, he watched him. He stood there like this, watched him like 4 times. Like, okay, comes over. He adjusts his body. He moves his shoulders back. He moves his shoulders forward. He tells him where to step, and he goes, try it again. So he tries it again, and sure enough, it's getting close to the catcher. And he goes, okay, so what you're doing is this. Just do this, and keep your head here, and pretend like there's a line. And he did this real simple like thing. Like, there was this simple thing he did. It was nothing like the stuff I saw on YouTube. Like, the most fascinating thing about it was what he didn't do. Like, he never threw it to show him what it was supposed to look like. He just adjusted him. He just fixed his mechanics. And within 15 minutes, Harper was throwing strikes. And we're like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. So that's what the mechanics is in this business is after you do it long enough, you know what to do and what not to do. And when you get off track, you can piece it all back together. And there's been plenty of times that I've gotten off track. But when I get off track, what it generally comes down to is once I recruit somebody, my goal is to become the most influential person in that person's life. Like they should roll over and kiss their wife goodnight and then roll over and kiss me goodnight. Like that's how influential I'm trying to be. Like I'm trying to be involved. What most people do is they're like, you got contracted. Why don't you call your lead, stupid? You know, don't bother me. I mean, that's how most people do. My goal was always to have some sort of tool in place to help me in the training process. So whether that be videos or live dial teams or scripts or different things that we put in place to help nurture agents along, but have consistent communication with them and always be promoting something else. Like, hey, this is when the next team call is. This is when we talk about closing. What happened on your last two sales? Tell me what they told you. Like I'm having consistent, persistent communication, and I never let more than 48 hours go by without them hearing the sound of my voice. And God forbid I let more than 48 hours go by without at least a text. Because if you do that, the odds of them continuing, just think about what it's like to be new and not know what you're doing. And most people, especially the bigger you get in the business, they feel like they're bothering you. So you have to make it a point to consistently. So this is what my system is to say all that. So recruit somebody, they get contracted. And within 48 hours of them getting contracted, what I'm doing is what I call a game plan. And I get together with them and I have a conversation about how much money they need to make, how fast, how much money they have in the bank right now, what their circumstance looks like, what income comes into the house, what happens if they don't make X by when, what does this really look like for you? What are your expectations of it? How much time do you have to commit? What do the people around you think about you doing this? Like I'm trying to find out everything I possibly can about their situation so that I can lead them and help them formulate a plan to get going. And then based on this conversation and understanding their need and how much money they have to get leads and whatnot, then we're going to make a plan. And I ask them, do you mind if I co-create a plan with you? Like let's come up with a plan together that we can both hold each other accountable to. And that's pretty much it. So I do that in the first 48 hours. Then the next step is how quickly can I help them get leads and get them dialing? So on my board, I have 48-hour review. I have the name over here, name. And then I have 48-hour review. And then I have leads. And then I have dialing. And then I have submit. And then I have issued. And then I have recruiting. And then I have event. Okay. So what that is the 48-hour review. I'm talking to them about what their goals are, getting an understanding what their why is, finding out, making a plan. Then they're getting leads. Yes, they purchase leads. I check that off. They're dialing the leads. That means next time I talk to them, we're talking about them dialing. I leave the line of communication open. Bob, when you get 3 no's in a row, call me. Let's talk about what they said. Don't feel like you're bothering me. It's a two-way street. Like I'm always letting them know it's okay because I'm trying to build the relationship. If they call me, I don't have to spend an hour on the phone coaching them. I'll send them a recording to listen to. I'll send them a video to watch. I'll send them a script to review. I'll role play, but I don't have to have hour-long conversations. That's where people get it screwed up. They think they have to be everybody's counselor. No, I'm just trying to help on this one thing on the board. Like if they bought leads and they're dialing the leads, but they haven't submitted any business, then my goal is like, let's talk about why you're not making sales and submitting business. You know, if they submit a bunch of business and nothing issues, then the next thing is like, why don't we talk about how to get you to issue more business? So I'm checking that off the board. The next thing is, are they recruiting? I try to get people to recruit right away. I help them pull out a list from their warm market. Who do you think would be good at it? Who needs help? Who needs the money? Who's been successful in business before? Who's the most influential person you know? That's another thing about recruiting. You recruit people for who they know. That's a home run. If you recruit influential people, they'll go get it done. Like that's how it works. Recruit people who are better at this than you, who know more people than you and have more better people skills than you do, and you'll be successful. Those are the ones that everybody's afraid to talk to. Those are the first ones I get people to talk to because you might just mess around and recruit a Cody, who will do it with or without you, which is what everybody wants. So you can't want what you don't want. So when I talk to people about recruiting, they're like, I'll talk to my aunt. What's your aunt do? She's on disability. She hasn't worked in 15 years and she's 94 years old. Okay, well, I'm not trying to judge, but you have anybody else? I mean, like, God, that sounded so terrible. Y'all know what I'm trying to say, though, right? Like, what's Bob do? He's unemployed, just got out of prison. You know, all right, well, God bless him, but he can't even get an insurance license, probably. Like anybody else. You know, so what I'm saying is get in the habit of recruiting up. Recruit people that you're intimidated by. That'll get you a lot further, a lot faster. Um, so then the other thing is, so I get them to recruit, and then the last thing on the board is an event. So a national conference, 8%, the local spring sales conference that your team has. One of those things. So what I'm doing is that person doesn't get out of that 48-hour communication window until they've done all that stuff. That's when I consider them recruited. So they could write 40 grand a month, but if they haven't gone to our national conference, they ain't in yet. Y'all see? Like that's everybody stops recruiting too early. Like all this other steps did is just give me permission to have another phone call with Bob. Right? Now people can self-select and opt out and disappear, and they will. And you can mess up and drop the ball. But the mechanics of what I'm trying to do is that system to get me back to where I need to be to make sure I can throw it over home plate. And I just do that consistently, persistently over time. And I don't make big, sweeping, massive changes to it. What am I doing? I'm selling every single week. I'm preaching the same message. I do it long enough that people see what I'm doing. They do it with me. And when you have that, that's when you crack the code of building a big agency. Because what most people are looking at is how many writers do I have? How many people do I have writing insurance? I was always looking at how many writer getters do I have? How many people do I have doing this with me? And if I did it long enough, they would just follow suit. It's like a clock, like one of those old antique clocks. What everybody does in the business is they hear a training or they see something and they'll go make a massive sweeping change to it. Well, the bigger the organization is, it's like one of those clocks. If I start tinkering around with this big gear at the top, then all these little gears at the bottom are going to break. And so too many people are like, found it. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. Man, they got 2 walls up. They're ready to put up the roof. They tear down the whole building and start over on a new foundation, trying to do it completely different. And that's not the right answer. It's about little subtle changes and adding layers upon layers as you go along that don't interfere with the other layers so that the message is always the same. So, yeah, that's selling and building at a high level.
That is strong, man. I love it. That's so good. I'm excited. I'm ready to go back. I'm ready to go out to recruit. I'm ready to go
Me
back.
too.
I'm coming to Victorville. I'm ready to go back and sell insurance.
Well, we're right in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So we're 45 minutes from the world's tallest thermometer, for those that want to know. So,
Oh my God.
it's not as hot as Dallas. I tell you what, if you did 8% in Victorville, it's not nearly as humid as Dallas. It might be 114, but you could at least walk outside without having to change your clothes.
That's true.
That's for
Especially
sure.
July. Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's phenomenal. Dude, I got a bunch of notes.
Nice. I'm glad I was able to help.
I got a bunch of notes,
So,
man. I appreciate you being on this. I really do.
yes, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I got another one at 3:45. I hate to rush.
No, you're good.
You guys can all look me up on Instagram if you got more questions.
Yeah.
I'm the one that looks like me.
Hit Trey up on Instagram. It's Trey_Honeycutt, right?
Yeah, TRAY_ Honeycutt. Tray like a food tray.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I just tagged, for those that are wondering, I just tagged him here.
Nice.
At Trey_Honeycutt. Okay.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Dude, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you being on this. You're amazing. Phenomenal webinar, phenomenal content. And I will make sure that we share this recording out as well. Thank you guys for being on. Go follow Trey. Love what he's doing. Phenomenal content, phenomenal message. And I appreciate you being part of tonight's webinar. Okay. Thank you all.
Yeah,
Trey.
thanks for having me. And I love everything Cody does. You guys
Thanks.
keep fighting. If you have not subscribed to something Cody has, go subscribe to everything Cody has.
Thanks.
He's an ambassador for the industry. We love him for that. So thank
Thanks,
you.
man. You're awesome. Enjoy your 345. Thank you so much.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you guys for being on. We'll see you on the next webinar. Adios.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're gonna love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
I'm so excited for today's CA Power Player podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins. We got a special guest. He is back on the channel talking about how to sell life insurance from home. Here's what I love about this person. Okay, I'm telling you, this will be one of the best.